Well, when you think about the fact that Christians really invented the university, the idea of that kind of an institution in the late medieval world and then even in the early modern world, and what the reformers would have had access to, was the idea that there was this, think of it as a solar system where God is the center of the solar system, and all the other planets, namely all the other subjects that you could study, these are things that really have their center of gravity in a particular view of God. And so if you take the sun out of that solar system, eventually everything else is going to stop orbiting around it.
We're living in a day where all of these ethical issues that are straight out of Scripture that Paul talks about, the Old Testament talks about, they're coming right back in front of us. And so we are in a position where we need to make sure that Christian men and women are thinking clearly about ethical dilemmas of the 21st century.
The biblical doctrine of man is under assault. A big part of how we push back against this is to open all the floodgates of all the classical texts and really go back to the sources. A Christian school has to be a kind of revolt against that really insane culture of death that seeks to uproot everything that God planted. The idea of the liberal arts comes from the idea of the free person. It's somebody who's not merely a cog in the machine.
This is not merely the accumulation of facts. We're actually trying to create a particular type of person. The truth is that this is one of the least novel experiments that's ever been done. You think about Thomas Jefferson, you think about James Madison, you go back to Martin Luther, Aquinas. This was how all these great men were taught. And so what we're trying to do is not novel, it's actually recovering what worked in the first place.
You're ultimately coming to be transformed, you're coming to be changed. And that's what you want to have happen at the college level, is when you go out into the world, you've been changed as a person. You become something not for a particular job, which may only last 5 years, let alone 20, 30 years, but you've become a kind of person for the long haul. That sort of a person is going to be a free soul. He's not going to be bound to the temporal. He's not going to be bound to his animal passions or things that are below, things that don't last. But he's going to be contemplating things that do last, and therefore his soul is going to become more like that immutable, eternal thing that he beholds.